In a way, I was kind of on an inner quest, but also on an outer quest as well, without in any way feeling that I was looking for religion. I felt that in some way the religions were over. This was a new age. This was the age of Aquarius, you know, religion was over. And then as it happened on a trip, I made a trip back to England from Ireland and bumped into an old friend of mine who basically was interested in Islam, and he introduced me to people who were from the community in Norwich. And they kind of fascinated me because a lot of them had a similar kind of background, you know, they were similar kind of age, sort of post-hippie. And they had a kind of being that I admired. I admired their character and their behavior and how they were. But they also had answers for the inner quest, as well as answers for how do you structure community. And for me, that was, it was so attractive and really surprising. I was really surprised that this was Islam. But I was also really attracted by the idea of that there was a community, and that also they had a map for the kind of inner journey which I recognized I was on. And so as I met them, I came and visited Norwich and stayed for about a week. And, you know, after 4 or 5 days, I suddenly realized, you know, that I believe all of this is true. So that doesn't leave me with a lot of choice. You then either submit or you cover it up. And that, in the end, that was no choice at all. So I after being here around a week, and I said the Shahada, accepted Islam, and then went back to Ireland, where I still had a family and 2 children and a whole lot of friends. So that was, going back there was a whole adventure. And so I realized that I was going to have a lot of explaining to do, because I didn't ask anybody and speak to anybody. My wife wasn't there, she was back in Ireland. You know, we didn't have telephones back then. So, you know, I just went ahead with it. But I had a pretty good idea that it was going to be a kind of a bumpy road in terms of explaining what had happened. And yeah, it did turn out to be kind of a bumpy road, actually. That the early part, after first accepting Islam, was, things got a bit rocky at home until there was a certain point where, after my 3rd child was born, I actually left. I thought, I can't do this anymore. It became unbearable for me, because I needed the company of Muslims. I was just living up a mountain in Ireland. I had no company. So I was doing the prayer, and, you know, Ramadan came round. I tried to fast Ramadan on my own, and it was hard. I mean, I'd kept it up. It wasn't that I doubted Islam. On the contrary, I doubted the way that I was living, and so this was no longer compatible with things that were suddenly had now become critically important for me in my life. And so I left. I said, you know, the house, the kids, the thing, you know, I can't do this. And fortunately, after a few weeks, my wife showed up with all the children. And after maybe a 1.5 years of being, you know, steadfastly opposed to Islam or anything to do with it, you know, after a couple of days here, she met some of the women and just did a 180-degree turn and accepted Islam and stayed with it until she passed away. And children were all brought up as Muslim. And so that had a bumpy beginning, but a very happy end in that sense.